Picture yourself standing on the sun-drenched shores of Florida, the salty breeze ruffling your hair as you gaze skyward. Towering above you, a gleaming rocket stretches nearly a third of the height of the Eiffel Tower, an engineering marvel known as New Glenn. Its silvery skin glints in the sunlight, dwarfing the crowd and the launch towers around it. This is not simply another launch in the endless parade of rockets. This is the dawn of a bold new era, and at its heart is Blue Origin, the private spaceflight company founded by Jeff Bezos, now preparing to make interplanetary history. The world is holding its breath, not just for the spectacle, but for what this launch represents: a seismic shift in the economics, technology, and ambition of humanity's reach for the stars. In the not-so-distant past, the vision of traveling to Mars was the sole domain of government agencies. Only titans like NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Soviet space program dared to dream of reaching the Red Planet. These missions required budgets that rivaled the GDP of small nations and years, sometimes decades, of painstaking preparation. The first glimpses of Mars came courtesy of robotic explorers like Mariner 4 in the mid-1960s, which sent back the first grainy images from the Martian surface. But times have changed. Today, the launch pads of Cape Canaveral and beyond are bustling with a new breed of pioneers. Private companies with names like SpaceX, Rocket Lab, and Blue Origin, each vying for a place in the cosmic spotlight. At the center of this new chapter stands the ESCAPADE mission, the Escape and Plasma Acceleration and Dynamics Explorers. This mission consists of two nearly identical spacecraft, affectionately named Blue and Gold, paying homage to the colors of the University of California, Berkeley, whose Space Sciences Laboratory manages the project for NASA. These twin probes are poised to unlock the secrets of Mars' invisible magnetic shield, known as the magnetosphere, which holds the key to understanding why Mars transformed from a potentially habitable world into the barren, windswept desert we see today. But how did we reach this extraordinary crossroads, where the once unimaginable notion of commercial giants battling for interplanetary contracts has become reality? And, more importantly, what does this mean for the future of space exploration, scientific discovery, and the global economy? To understand the magnitude of this moment, let's rewind a bit. Blue Origin, founded in the year 2000 by Amazon's Jeff Bezos, emerged with a singular vision: to make space accessible to everyone. This was not just a dream, but a calculated mission to drive down the astronomical costs of space travel and to build rockets that could be launched repeatedly, much like commercial airplanes. For decades, the dominant paradigm had been expendable rockets. Once launched, their expensive components were lost forever in the ocean or burned up in the atmosphere. Blue Origin aimed to rewrite this rulebook. Their latest creation, the New Glenn rocket, stands at an awe-inspiring height of almost 100 meters, over 320 feet, making it one of the tallest rockets ever built. But height alone is not what sets New Glenn apart. It is designed with reusability in its DNA. The first stage, or booster, is engineered to return safely to Earth and be launched again, not just once or twice, but at least 25 times. In theory, this level of reusability could drive down the cost of sending payloads into space by orders of magnitude, making the dreams of scientists, entrepreneurs, and even students far more attainable. The ESCAPADE mission is itself a testament to the new spirit of collaboration between government, academia, and private industry. Managed by the University of California, Berkeley, and funded with a budget of $80 million, a relatively modest sum in the world of interplanetary science. The mission's twin spacecraft were built by Rocket Lab, a company that has rapidly risen to prominence for its innovative approach to launching small satellites. Rocket Lab, led by visionary Peter Beck, has positioned itself as the Uber for small satellites, making it possible for a wide range of customers to access space on their own terms. So what exactly will these twin probes do? Blue and Gold will travel across millions of miles of interplanetary space to enter orbit around Mars. There, they will conduct a detailed study of how the solar wind, a stream of charged particles emitted by the sun, interacts with Mars' magnetic field. This is no simple science experiment. The data collected will fill critical gaps in our understanding of atmospheric loss on Mars, building on the groundbreaking work of NASA's MAVEN missions. Scientists hope that ESCAPADE will reveal the planet's real-time response to space weather, showing how the Martian magnetosphere changes over time and what processes control the flow of energy and matter into and out of the planet's atmosphere. NASA's own mission statement for ESCAPADE speaks volumes. The observations will reveal the planet's real-time response to space weather and how the Martian magnetosphere changes over time. And in simpler terms, these probes are set to answer one of the most profound questions in planetary science. Why did Mars, a planet that once may have had rivers, lakes, and perhaps even life, lose its atmosphere and become inhospitable? Yet, the road to the launch pad has been anything but smooth. Initially, ESCAPADE was slated to hitch a ride on the very first flight of New Glenn, with a much-anticipated launch window in late October of last year. However, reality intervened. Technical challenges, development delays, and rising costs forced NASA to make a difficult decision. Fearing a last-minute scramble that could jeopardize years of work, NASA pulled the ESCAPADE probes from the inaugural manifest. Meanwhile, Blue Origin pressed ahead, finally launching New Glenn for the first time in mid-January. That first flight was a qualified success. The rocket reached orbit, delivering a test version of Blue Origin's Blue Ring spacecraft platform. However, there was a hitch. The booster failed to land safely at sea, raising questions about the company's ability to achieve its ambitious goals for reusability. Now, after months of uncertainty, the waiting is finally over. Blue Origin has confirmed that ESCAPADE will be the star payload aboard the second-ever flight of New Glenn, currently targeting no earlier than mid-August from the hallowed grounds of Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The mission will share the ride with a technology demonstration for Viasat, a major player in satellite communications, further increasing the stakes of this high-profile launch. But in the background looms an ever-present question. Can Blue Origin deliver on its bold promises? The competition is fierce. SpaceX, with its Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets, has set a high bar for reliability and cost. Elon Musk's company has successfully launched and landed boosters dozens of times, transforming what was once science fiction into routine reality. Even Rocket Lab, with its Electron rocket, has carved out a niche for small satellite launches and is now developing its own larger, reusable vehicle. Meanwhile, Europe's Arianespace is racing to bring its Ariane 6 online, hoping to maintain independent access to space for the continent. The launch market has never been more competitive, and a single failure can swing fortunes dramatically. Industry analyst Maria Tanaka, speaking to Spacetech Weekly, summed up the stakes. The new space race is not only about reaching orbit, it's about reliability, affordability, and building trust with clients. One or two bad launches can change everything. Blue Origin's CEO, Dave Limp, is fully aware of the gravity of the moment. In a recent statement, he declared, "ESCAPADE is not only New Glenn's first interplanetary mission, it's also the first multi-spacecraft orbital science mission to study the Martian magnetosphere. And we hope to land and recover our booster for the first time. Mars, here we come." The consequences of this mission extend far beyond the walls of Blue Origin's headquarters. If New Glenn successfully lifts ESCAPADE toward Mars and achieves a smooth booster recovery, the reverberations will be felt across the global space industry. For Blue Origin, it would mean finally shaking off the reputation for delays and missed milestones, establishing itself as a true heavyweight competitor to SpaceX. For NASA and other government agencies, it would validate the strategy of leveraging commercial partners to drive down costs and accelerate innovation. And for the broader scientific community, it would open up new opportunities to pursue ambitious, multi-spacecraft missions on tighter budgets. But the risks are just as real. Another failed booster recovery, or worse, a mishap with the deployment of the ESCAPADE probes, could set Blue Origin back by years. It would likely cause NASA and other agencies to be more cautious in selecting commercial partners for critical missions. This could slow the pace of innovation, increase costs, and potentially cede more market share to SpaceX and other established players. In the high-stakes world of space launch, reputation is everything. The scientific stakes are equally profound. ESCAPADE will provide crucial data on how Mars' magnetic field guides particle flows around the planet, how energy and momentum are transported from the solar wind through the magnetosphere, and what processes control the flow of energy and matter into and out of the Martian atmosphere. Every bit of data from the blue and gold probes could deepen our understanding of planetary evolution, atmospheric loss, and the broader question of what makes a planet habitable. If successful, ESCAPADE could pave the way for future missions that use fleets of small, coordinated spacecraft to investigate other planets, moons, and even asteroids. This could dramatically speed up the pace of discovery and reduce the risks associated with relying on a single, expensive flagship mission. For viewers and listeners like you, these developments might seem distant or abstract, but the implications are anything but remote. The price you pay for global internet, your country's ability to launch research satellites, and the opportunities available to students and entrepreneurs all depend on access to affordable, reliable space launch services. As costs come down and reliability goes up, the doors are open to a new era of exploration, education, and economic opportunity. Imagine a world where high school students can design experiments that orbit the Earth, where startups test new communications technologies in space, and where even developing nations can participate in space science. All of this depends on the success of rockets like New Glenn and missions like ESCAPADE. Let's delve deeper into Blue Origin's ambitions. The company is not content with simply launching satellites or Mars probes. Its long-term vision includes establishing a sustained human presence on the Moon, supporting NASA's Artemis program, and developing private space habitats, such as the Orbital Reef Space Station. Blue Origin has even been awarded a multi-billion-dollar contract by the United States Space Force to provide launches for national security payloads, an endorsement of the company's growing capabilities and strategic importance. Achieving routine, reliable reusability with New Glenn is a critical step toward realizing these ambitions. Technologically, New Glenn represents a quantum leap. Its first stage, designed for at least 25 flights, could eventually be joined by a reusable second stage, further slashing the cost per launch. The rocket's massive payload capacity, comparable to or exceeding that of the Falcon 9, makes it ideal for launching large constellations of satellites, interplanetary missions, or even lunar landers. Every successful launch builds the case for a truly competitive, diversified launch market, decreasing reliance on any single provider and driving further innovation. The ESCAPADE mission also exemplifies the growing trend of collaboration across the space industry. Rocket Lab's construction of the twin probes, in partnership with UC Berkeley and NASA, demonstrates how smaller, nimble companies can contribute to big science. Viasat's technology demonstration, Hitching a Ride Alongside ESCAPADE, highlights the increasing importance of secondary payloads and shared launches, a model that can help defray costs and maximize the utility of every mission. Let's not forget the historical parallels. In the early days of aviation, only a handful of governments and wealthy individuals could afford to fly. But as technology improved and costs dropped, air travel transformed the world, enabling new industries, expanding global trade, and connecting people across continents. Spaceflight today is at a similar inflection point. The transition from bespoke, single-use rockets to reusable, mass-produced vehicles could unleash a wave of economic, scientific, and social transformation reminiscent of the rise of commercial aviation a century ago. Looking ahead, the outcome of the upcoming New Glenn and ESCAPADE launch could ripple far beyond the companies involved. If Blue Origin succeeds, it will not only prove its own approach but also force other players to innovate or risk being left behind. If, on the other hand, the mission falters, it may consolidate SpaceX's near monopoly, slow the adoption of new technologies, and reinforce the caution that has sometimes hampered progress. There are also geopolitical implications to consider. As more nations and companies gain access to reliable, affordable space launch capabilities, the balance of power in space is shifting. The United States, long the dominant player, now faces competition from Europe, China, India, and a host of emerging space powers. The democratization of space could foster new forms of international cooperation, but it also raises questions about security, regulation, and the long-term sustainability of space activities. The choices made today about which rockets to fund, which missions to pursue, and which companies to trust will shape the trajectory of space exploration for decades to come. What about the scientific dreamers? Every byte of data from ESCAPADE could help answer questions that have lingered for centuries. Did Mars once harbor life? If so, where did it go? Could its atmosphere have been preserved if its magnetosphere were stronger? Understanding Mars' transformation could offer insights into the fate of our own planet, or the prospects for terraforming other worlds in the distant future. These are not idle questions. They touch on humanity's deepest aspirations and fears. For the business-minded, the stakes are equally high. The global satellite industry alone is worth hundreds of billions of dollars annually. Communications, navigation, Earth observation, climate monitoring. These services underpin much of modern civilization. Lowering the cost of access to space could unleash a wave of innovation and economic growth, with new entrants competing to provide faster internet, better weather forecasting, and more precise mapping. As more payloads are launched, economies of scale kick in, further reducing costs and speeding up the cycle of discovery and commercialization. So, can Blue Origin deliver on its promise? The evidence is mixed but promising. The company's first launch of New Glenn demonstrated that it can reach orbit and deploy payloads, albeit with some challenges on booster recovery. With the second flight, Blue Origin aims to achieve not only a successful interplanetary insertion for ESCAPADE, but also the first recovery and reuse of a New Glenn booster. If they succeed, they will join an elite club and could set a new standard for the industry. NASA's trust, the hopes of the scientific community, and the expectations of the commercial sector all hang in the balance. The launch window is approaching, with mid-August circled on calendars across the industry. The world will be watching as New Glenn thunders off the pad, carrying the fate of ESCAPADE, the dreams of blue and gold, and the ambitions of an entire generation of explorers. As you watch the countdown, remember, you are witnessing not just a rocket launch, but the unfolding of a new chapter in human history. The lessons learned, the risks taken, and the successes or failures will shape the future of space access, scientific discovery, and economic opportunity for years to come. Here's a secret fact that underscores the stakes. New Glenn's first stage is designed to fly at least 25 times. Imagine the impact if this goal is realized. Suddenly, today's launch prices could seem as outdated as the cost of a transatlantic flight in the 1930s. The democratization of space would move from vision to reality, opening doors for nations, companies, and individuals who once could only dream of reaching the stars. If you want to stay ahead of the curve on the future of space, technology, and global competition, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. What do you think will happen with New Glenn and ESCAPADE? Will Blue Origin's gamble pay off and reshape the launch market? Or will the challenges prove insurmountable? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because the next